I'm going to be going over the minigame options for the poll or the Bidwar incentive in I'll Invaligate Your Aid. The first one I'm going to go over is actually the speedrunning Easter egg, which I could add to the poll, but I'll probably leave it off A because it costs 7 points and we'll get into points a little bit later. But B, the Easter egg was added specifically because the developers saw that I had speedrun this game in a marathon and wanted to add an Easter egg dedicated specifically for the speedrunning community. So I definitely want to show it off after the run if I can, so I don't want to leave that up to poll necessarily. As you can see, the minigame is quite simple. You're just moving at the maximum speed available in RPG Maker, and you have to make your way all the way through the end in the very, very narrow, tight passages, all the way to the end. And if you do so, you unlock 7 points worth of gaming, we'll just say. In order to advance the story at this point, you have to complete 10 points worth of minigames. And you can see each minigame has its own point value here on the list. The first game I'm going to show off is the Super Mario Maker, the Kaizo, illegally synced Kaizo / Super Mario Maker spoof. I'm also going to be showing off all the different ways you can game over in this section, not all of which needs a ton of commentary by me, but just to kick off the segment a little bit, you have absolutely no control over your momentum when jumping. Your jumping is a set distance, set angle. You can't change directions mid-jump. All of the fun stuff you can do in a Mario game doesn't exist in this. It's a platformer made on the RPG Maker engine, and it plays that way. If you happen to fall in a hole, or you game over in certain ways, you don't actually game over, you get sent to this room, which is kind of the abyss. Because in order to actually reset and try the stage again, you have to game over, which means you have to get in that top left corner and jump into the spikes, and you can see the horrendous controls here. This is really why I showed this room off for as long as I did. You can see you can also jump off of thin air, and you actually have to use that strategy quite often. The more times you game over, the more those stones will disappear, giving you less room to work with, of course. And if all of that wasn't bad enough, let's say you go through the wrong doors and you just say, well, I'm just gonna eat the reset, go back to the start and try again. Well, you get punished for that too, because when you load back in, Rhea shows up and says, hey, you think you could just reset the game? Yeah, this game has a resetty feature, and it will hold you up here for an entire minute just listening to music, just as a punishment for trying to speed through the game. Look, the game has Easter eggs for speedrunners. I didn't say it was all going to be helpful for speedrunners. The game's also been patched. It's actually a nerfed version of this level. It used to be if you so much as touched the door, you would go through the door. If you touch that block there, you get launched into outer space and blow up. In blocks, of course, and there you can see you go right through the corner. If you jump onto the corner, you will just clip right on through and die. There is a checkpoint, as you can see, that helps you out about halfway through. But you do have to game over a few times before it'll spawn. And if you come all the way over here to the right, let's see if there's any hidden content over here at the end of the stage. Hey, we get some epic music and some bad controls. There is nothing up the hole there. I didn't show it off, but there's nothing up there. All there is this passageway all the way back to the left. And if you jump on top of the spikes, the same thing happens as if you jumped on the bottom of the spikes. The water or whatever it is appears. That effect. And of course, you got to choose a door section. We chose poorly, as one might say. Hey, I'm just zooming through the correct door options. You can see here you've got math problems your air quotes supposed to solve. I don't know if those equations actually equate to anything in the end. Well, I know the first one's correct. I don't know if the second one's mathematically sound or solvable or anything. This room looks just like the death trap room. Because it is the death trap room, and if you don't go directly to the door, those springs appear, and now you cannot go to the exit. And game over. Now, once you get into the final chamber, your work is, of course, not finished. There's a hidden flop. Let's get to the finish line finally. Nope, that's the fish line, and if the fish lands on you, well, it is RPG Maker. We're going to get into an RPG-style turn-based fight against this big old fish. What skills do we have? We have Cry. We have Report the entire game to Nintendo for copyright infringement. We have a big dodge. It never works. And we have an ability called Karen, which is basically just complain and whine and get sent back to the title screen. Yep, none of those options actually work, and then you just game over. Of course. And then finally, without any further comment, let's just show a run through of the entire stage from beginning to end, hopefully without any mistakes. The next minigame I'm going to show off is the Tamagotchi minigame. This is one of the longer ones. It plays a very limited version of a Tamagotchi, as you might imagine. The only thing you can really do as far as interaction is to drop apples on the screen for Rhea Gachi to eat. That's not Rhea, that's Rhea Gachi. And when Rhea reaches level 1, she becomes combat ready. And in order to clear this mini game, you have to clear not just the first phase, but the first and the second phase of the only fight available in this mini game. There is one fight against a boss with 3 phases. You only have to clear 2 of the phases, and you can't do it at level 1, so you do have to level up for a little bit here. I'm just gonna let the game play out. There's really not a whole lot of commentary for me to add otherwise. Other than the battle is an auto battle. You have no input over this. Only thing you can do is keep feeding Rhea to level her up. And if you go into combat and you lose, you might get some gear, you might not. You might get good EXP, you might not. There's a fair amount of RNG in this chapter. Yeah, in fact, I decided to just fast forward through all of the leveling up in the video and go right to where I finally had gained enough EXP to get through the first and the second phase of the fight. This is the third phase of the fight against the one-winged tank saber slime. He has an ability called Credits Roll, which is more or less just an instant game over at this level. And see, we've cleared the second phase, so I could click on that arrow and clear the minigame. I wanted to see if there was any, I'll just say, end-game, post-game content. And if I spend another 10 to 12 minutes leveling up, I can finally defeat the one-winged tank saber slime. And you get nothing. You get 50,500, however many bajillions of EXP, and that's it. Then when you're done, just say, hey, if you and your friend are gonna get really depressed, they're probably gonna cry, it's very, very sad. It tries to guilt you into staying, and then you can just move on and abandon your friend. The next minigame is the simplest one of the bunch. It is the mashing minigame. In fact, I even skipped over like the menus and stuff. This is it. There's a gate. FaZe has to build a gate. You push Z repeatedly to build a gate. It's a mashing minigame. You mash Z. I'm gonna use the timer on the screen and just fast forward, but this minigame takes under 2 minutes. And then when you're done, you're done and the game ends. No bonus stuff, no Easter eggs. That's it. The next minigame is a tabletop RPG or a board game. The name of it depends on which version number of Invaligate you're playing. But the goal here is simple. For this first NPC, we have to roll a d20 and get a 20. For the next NPC, we have to roll 2 d20s and get a 40. And then the last NPC, we have to roll 5 d20s and roll 100. If you just roll your standard roll, just a standard d20, and you roll above a 13, you get a little bit of cash, a random amount of cash. You can also do what is called a super throw, which adds a little bit to your dice total, but it gives you negative karma. And negative karma means that your die rolls themselves, your future die rolls, will be penalized. You're less likely to get good numbers. You can use your money to either do curved rolls, which are like anti-cheat rolls, I'll just say, to fix your negative karma. And then you can also use the money in the shop to buy. Typically what we'll buy in the speedrun are the gloves there that you can see, because it adds to your super throws, and all we're really worried about is that total, the d20 plus whatever our bonuses are. So you really want to buy as many gloves as you can without incurring too much karma. That's pretty much it, so I'm just gonna go ahead and skip ahead to a full start to finish run of this minigame. And in case you're wondering, no, you don't need to roll a 100 on 5d20. It just says JK, haha, and the game is over. The next minigame is the hidden object minigame. You are looking for lilacs that are lying on the ground, and usually they're behind other sprites on this screen. Usually they're hiding behind the tent or the buildings or statues or other sprites on the screen. There are no in-game hints to help you find them. You just have to look for them and figure out where they're hiding. You can also either memorize the locations or do what I do and just keep a little checklist to help you get through the game in a speed run. The next minigame is a decision-making minigame. We are trying to make a movie with Rhea and FaZe. And the movie's called Omnigate. We have to help them make decisions about 3 different, very important questions regarding the direction of the movie. The first question is going to be about the gates themselves. How much of our budget do we want to put into the gates? Do we want to get lots of gates and use very expensive ones? Do we want to use the gates that we already have and try to use them more efficiently so we can save money? And depending on what answers we choose, both Rhea and FaZe will react accordingly. They'll either gain happiness points or lose happiness points. And the goal at the end is to make them both happy. And by happy, we mean at least 0. If they are 0, if they're totally neutral, that's good enough. So, you know, happiness is relative, I suppose. The second question is about using, finding a real golden hammer to use for the movie. I believe I was going to pick prop. No, it looks like it picked a real standard hammer. So not a golden hammer, but a real, you know, actual regular hammer. That makes FaZe a little bit happy. But he's still at -2. So for this last question, I need to make him super happy. And it's about using a stunt double for the final scene. FaZe wants to actually bonk the actor on the head. And if it's a stunt double, he says he can't get into the part. If he's not hitting the real dude, the real actor. You can see we didn't quite make everybody happy, and there's our game over. For this one, I'm going to go through all the correct answers, but at least slow play the dialogue enough so that viewers at home could play along. I'm not saying this is the speed I do for the speed run, but if we want to showcase it, say at the end of the run or something like that, just so that the viewers at home can feel like they're playing along, this is how long that would take. Next up is a puzzle mini game. You have to flip on bushes, I'll just say, to turn all of the lights on. It's just that simple. Once you know the solution, it's very, very quick. In and out in about 13 seconds. The next mini game is an exploration mini game. There's, again, not too many Easter eggs, game overs, and nothing really to talk about here as far as hidden content. The name of the game here is Survival. You're being placed in the middle of a giant desert. As long as you're sitting next to some of the water, or I should say standing next to some of the water meter at the top will fill up. If while you are exploring that water meter gets down to 0, you game over. First you have to come over here and talk to the kid to get the key to the gate. Kid's gonna sit here and take a nice nap here in the desert. Don't worry about it too much. Then you can go right to the exit. I did look around this minigame. I found no Easter eggs, hidden items, any other NPCs. It was just exploring to find the kid and exploring to find the door. That was it. You can even do it on one, I would say health bar, but water bar, I guess. The next minigame is a horror game. And it is the spookiest and the scariest of all the minigames in this list, not just because it's a horror game, but because we are speedrunners. And this is our worst nightmare. All of the NPCs that you see on the screen, if you so much as touch them, you do not even need to hit the interact button. If you walk by them and they tag you, they hit you with a giant wall of text. The giant wall of text is the game description as it is listed on itch.io, however you say the name of the website. It is Rhea telling you all about the game and how you shouldn't play and how she's gonna stop you from playing. It's a big wall of text that I'm going through slowly so you can read it. And again, you have to get to the end of this stage, and every time you touch an NPC, you get the wall of text. Again, don't have to hit interact or anything. Absolutely terrifying. Worst nightmare for speedrunners everywhere. Just an unlimited, unknowable, inescapable number of text boxes to mash. I can't even talk, can't even say it. I'm so terrified of this minigame. Then when you get about halfway through, you'll run into this NPC who will grab you 100% of the time. And if you're just mashing through, you're gonna get to this question box and you're gonna hit confirm for yes, and you will get sent back to the beginning of the stage. You have to be careful though. You have to slow down and stop mashing so that you either hit cancel or you scroll down and hit no. Otherwise you're gonna keep resetting the room and you'll be stuck here forever. And then here's a start to finish run of this minigame. The next minigame is a strategy minigame, and just as a bit of a spoiler alert, the choices don't matter for this minigame. So for speedrunning purposes, you just mash. Didn't think that would make good content as far as showcasing it. So even though I've got the timer running, this is just showing, like, if I really wanted to stop and really ham it up and really let the crowd read everything, this is about how long it would take. Also, just to give you a chance to read the dialogue and see what the options are, because some of them are kind of goofy. You have to choose what to do with the extra food that's in the kingdom, what to do about the fact that you don't have enough money to build statues, what to do about the army that is invading that you don't know where they've come from. You can either run to Antarctica or send the cows to attack or barricade yourself, or just imagine that everything's going to be fine and see what happens. And after all that, you have the most important question of them all. This is one that does matter. You really want to take some time to think about it. Dogs or cats? You're a dog person or a cat person? Whichever one you pick does in fact change your kingdom's fate just a little bit, because while your empire falls, you and everybody you love are going to be sitting around petting said pet until the invading army comes and takes over. The last minigame is the Soulslike-like Minigame. This is by far the hardest minigame in the bunch. You have to navigate the room without stepping in any of the spike traps, and as time goes on, the room's going to get darker. If you do manage to step on a trap, you instantly game over. No extra lives, no continues, no checkpoints, nothing like that in this one. But if the room does get pitch black, these purple tiles will stay lit up. That's really your only guidance if you're having a hard time getting through the room. Even with the game over, this room's not that long, but it is a pretty tricky minigame. Here I'm going to show off a legacy version of this minigame. Older versions of the minigame had the room get much darker, and the darkness crept in much faster than it currently does. You definitely needed to use certain corners of the room or those purple tiles as reference points, and I had to memorize the last section of the room to even have a chance to get through, because you could see absolutely nothing at the end of the run.